wonderful people to the Real Collective podcast. As always, I'm Sean Tasse, joined by my illustrious co-host Kyle Miller, who's keeping calm and striving on
Driving on.
Ontario. For Ontario? I'm not sure. Anyways, as always, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, share this with someone who you think might like this conversation. You can download the buyer or seller guides below or schedule an appointment with Kyle or I in the Calendly links below. Also, check out our sponsor and you can get into what we're talking about, a little bit more about Magic Mind later. The code in the description below, RCP20, www.magicmind.com. We'll talk a little bit more about Magic Mind later and how wonderful that is to our brains. We wanted to talk a little bit today about Kyle just got back from a big time, big schmoozing, big high mortgage broker conference just this past weekend. And we'll get into some interesting things that we were talking about in terms of interest rates and prime rates and fixed and variable and all that stuff. Also wanted to dive into really defining agency today and talking about, right, what is that? It's a company, it's a real estate brokerage, the agency.
Yeah. Mauricio, he's on the TV.
Is he on the TV and he's got that company, the agency? Is that what it's from?
He's the founder of it. His wife is a Real Housewife of Beverly Hills.
Awesome.
That's how we got in. I love trash TV.
Not at all what I wanted to talk about. I want to talk about, when you hire an agent to work on your behalf, what's involved in that. So yeah, it's a definitely. There's only two careers that have the level of agency that realtors do. One is a realtor, the other is a lawyer. So two most hated jobs. Nobody likes realtors, nobody likes lawyers. Woo! Now, they're supposed to be your agent, which means the easiest way to look at it is they put their needs, we put our needs behind the client needs. So the client needs always need to come first. One of the big reasons for that change, the Trust in Real Estate Services Act, as opposed to the Real Estate Business Brokers Act, 2002, one of the big reasons for the change is that wasn't happening. And so, legislation said, hey, we're gonna legislate this to happen so that you always put your consumers ahead of you, right? So the idea of agency is, hey, I'm going to work for you on your behalf. The long and the short of it, right? It's defined by by 6 fiduciary responsibilities. And you're going to say, what the heck does fiduciary mean? It's a legal term. What it means, I don't know. But the 6 fiduciary responsibilities that your agent has to you are I wrote them down because I didn't memorize them. Accounting, care, reasonable care, confidentiality, disclosure, loyalty, and obeying your directions. So I wanted to break each of those down. So your agent owes that to you. So, okay, imagine if you were like a murderer, all right, and you walked into a lawyer's office and you're like, hey, look, I murdered this person. That lawyer still has to walk into court and say, he didn't do it. He didn't do it, and here is, the lawyer can know everything about what you did, but they still have to go in and use all of their lawyer tricks and tips, whatever they can to get you off. They're legally obligated to do that. And yes, you pay them to do it, but they have to do that, even though they know things about you that aren't true, right? That is the easiest way to understand agency. Does that make sense?
Yeah, there's some moral questions that kind of start creeping in there to a degree.
Yeah, absolutely. You go and you tell your doctor, or let's say you tell your therapist, hey, I'm having suicidal thoughts. That therapist is required to go and pass that information along to someone else. You tell that to your realtor or your lawyer, not the same level of responsibility, right? So it's different in that regard, right? Like doctors have a different level of responsibility to your overall health and well-being, whereas someone who you hire as your agent needs to put your needs first. Now, the argument can be made, well, you know what, my needs are health is important, but it's not the same thing, right? I guess it's similar, but if you're telling me, hey, look, Sean, I'm getting divorced. If I go and tell someone that you're getting divorced, I'm going to put you in a worse situation in terms of negotiation. So I can't do that, right? So that's
Right.
the confidentiality piece. Or, hey, you know what? I can actually afford $1 million on a house, but I don't want you to offer more than 850 for this house. I don't care what I can afford. I care what I want you to do. I can't go and say, look, we're pre-approved for $1 million. If you're asking 900 for the house and we're trying to buy it for 850, and I say we're pre-approved for $1 million, they're going to say, no, pay more, pay 9. We just came on the market. No, right? So that confidentiality is super important. And again, it comes down to understanding, you know, the impacts of disclosing things, right? Because there is a level of disclosure that we do have. So it's definitely a bit of a fine line, because there's things that we sometimes will have to disclose that supersede the client's needs, and that's what's written into our regulations, right? So it's tricky. You get into accounting, right? That's another thing. It says accounting. So we need to understand the impact. I don't need to be able to tell you exactly what your mortgage payment's going to be, but I need to have a pretty good sense of what the impact is of the decisions that you're making on your overall financial structure, right? I can't go and put you in a thing. I need to be able to say, hey, look, you sell your house, you're going to pay me 5%, whatever the rate is. It's negotiable. Just want to be clear about that. You pay me whatever the rate is you're going to pay me, and there's tax on top of that, and you're going to have your lawyer. Here is how much it is to sell your house. If there's a mortgage penalty associated with that, then that gets wrapped in. But again, that's where they're going to ask you what the penalty is, right? Accounting, and then care. And I said care, but the way it's written, it says reasonable care. So I need to care about you. I need to reasonably care about you. Reasonable, it's actually, I wrote care, but it's actually reasonable care and skill. So what is reasonable? If you are brand new as a realtor and you have no idea what you're doing and you have no skill, we've got an agent in here who's talking to another agent who's trying to do a backup offer on a property that they lost out on. And he said, well, what's a backup offer? That is not reasonable skill. Right? If you don't know what a backup offer is and you're a real estate agent, you don't know what an escape clause is, you do not have reasonable skill, and you cannot deliver reasonable care to your client, right?
But everybody's got to start somewhere.
Sure, then find a mentor and work with them, right?
Yeah, I got you.
Don't ask it to the other person on the other side of the transaction who has a legal obligation to do what's best for their client. You think they're going to explain it to you the right way? No, they're going to explain it to you in the way that makes the best sense for their client. Confidentiality, we talked about. Disclosure. So if I find something out about the house that you're trying to buy, I must legally disclose that to you. Conversely, if we're working on a selling side and someone tells me something, the buyer agent tells me something, I have to tell you that as the client. Right? I have to give you all of the information that I have. I can't keep something secret if I'm worried that, oh, I don't want to tell them that because it might blow up the deal. Too bad, right? You have to give your client all of the information that you have and allow them to make their own decision. And again, I think a lot of agents are missing out on this. Loyalty. This is another one. This is why, as this is the whole reason I wanted to bring it up, is because I've got an agent on the team who was talking with another buyer, and they were saying, oh, I don't want to miss out on this house because if I miss out on this house, I'm going to lose my clients. Well, the problem is you need to hire, if you're a consumer, you need to hire an agent and you need to sign a piece of paper saying, yes, you're my agent. Because if you don't, and you go and you see that house, that agent is going to want to sell you that house. They think that, hey, look, if you don't buy this house, you're going to go and find someone else to show you the next one. But if you hire an agent, a buyer agent to work for you, that buyer agent is going to be loyal to you in terms of not pushing the house on you, right? So if you don't hire the agent feels like, well, I got to sell this house because if I don't sell this house, I'm missing my shot. Whereas if you hire an agent who you believe is great, or at least, semi skillful,
semi skilled and reasonably skilled,
And that agent should be able to go in and tell you the problems with the house and the reasons that you don't want to buy it and help you walk away from a lemon of a house as opposed to forcing you to buy something, pushing something down your throat. If you're buying a house, you always want to hire your own agent. You don't want someone to come along and sell you something that you don't actually want to buy, because there are good salespeople out there, right? So, point being, don't get stuck with the agent who's going to show you that one house one time. Find an agent who's going to work for you and show you 5 or 6 houses and tell you all the problems with them and say, actually, you know what? Based on everything you said, this is the right house for you and your family, right? And then last one is obey directions. We talked with another an agent in the group here talking about obeying directions. Well, if a client gives you directions and they say, hey, you have to do this, and it's illegal, you don't have to obey illegal directions. You only have to obey their legal directions. So it happens. Hey, I want you to do this. That actually amounts to me helping you commit fraud. So no, I'm not going to fudge your documents or whatever it is, right? So those are the 6 fiduciary responsibilities that make up agency. The reason we created the Real Collective, it's an acronym. Real's an acronym. I love my acronyms. It stands for Real Estate Agency Leaders. So all the members of our group here are leaders in agency and focusing on raising that bar, bringing it to the next level. Where I think a lot of people who call themselves real estate agents are salespeople. Right? They want to sell, and they're not focused on being an agent so much as they are on selling. And absolutely, there's a lot to do with selling in this world, but that's not the most important thing. Now, I want to take a quick break, and I want you to talk a little bit about what you heard in the mortgage world, because in the second half, I want to talk about designated versus brokerage representation, and then self-representation, and the pros and cons of both. But tell me more about what you learned in the mortgage world, because I feel like I've just been talking this whole time.
Well, agency, I mean, hey, that's your thing. Go for it. Yeah, we're at the National Mortgage Broker Conference this year. Was held in Montreal. It's always a good time. It's so wild to hear just from different agents across the country and how things are different province to province. But we do get some pretty awesome speakers that come in. Typically at least one real high up economist. Usually it's Benjamin Tall with CIBC. He had to bail out. I think he was sick. We got now I forget his name. Don Drummond. Whew, that was crazy. Don Drummond, who is he was a former chief economist for at least 3 of our prime ministers throughout the last years. And one of the big takeaways that I got from that was he made an interesting comment as how his thought is that fixed rates, actually we could see them go up again. And someone out there is going to be like, that's impossible. Everybody's saying everything's coming down. And it's amazing just the disparity we have in terms of people's ideas in terms of what's going to happen. It's because his comment was driven by the fact that, like, just that you saw it in the last 2 weeks, right? Bank of Canada made their announcement, prime rate dropped, and all we've been seeing and the phone calls I've been getting are, why hasn't my fixed rate dropped? Why are we not seeing stuff start with a 3 when the Bank of Canada's rate's 3.75? All that stuff. And it's like, because it doesn't work like that. It just doesn't work like that. Fixed rates, which is what the vast majority of people want, are priced based off the bond market, which is tied to, well, obviously government of Canada bonds. And when you invest in those, you need to see a return. That's your yield. You need to see the return. And the only way we're going to get those returns is if people invest in them. And the more people that want them, the higher the return has to be. And the higher the return has to be, the higher the selling price has to be. And that's where you're getting your fixed rate from. So it's that ass backwards stuff. So the variable rate, prime rate can be going this way, and bonds can be going this way, right? And the bond market really is, it's where the speculation is. That's where the traders look at it and say, we think the Bank of Canada is going to do this, so we're pricing it like this. Right. and it's kind of the opposite of what we're doing right now. So it's interesting to hear that, because it's not doom and gloom, but it could be just the reality of like, hey guys, like we're back to the normal. We're back to the normal. High threes, low to mid fours, and that's where our fixed interest rates are going to be until the assumption becomes we have to drop everything to really stimulate and ramp up the economy. And we're going to see how that goes. So it was the end of the day, the bottom line was variable rates should be lower than fixed rates within the next 12 to 18 months, which is par for the course. If you track this over 60 years in Canada, right, there's only been a few times where we are in the position we're in right now, which is variables are higher than fixed. That is probably going away. That does not mean fixed rates will be as low as a variable rate mortgage, because you're also, that's the other thing too, you pay a premium for security, right? We love our security, we love our fixed rates, we don't want to worry about this. Great, you're going to pay for it. That's why it's going to be higher.
It's so like we get wrapped up in like the minutia of all this stuff where consumers are just like, I don't know, what is it? Couldn't tell you. Variable, fixed, impact it has on me. And we need to be so sharp, and having Magic Mind to be there and back us up day to day, make sure that we're sharp. Like I'm coming off of, and I've said this before, I'm coming off of a shit night of sleep last night where, the 2-year-old woke up at least once, probably twice. The 5-year-old was in and out of our bed probably 3 times. And it's a tag team effort at night. So, and then if she stays in our bed, she's not, for whatever reason, man, I don't know what's happening. She's learning French. So she's like, there's things that are happening in her mind. So she's kicking a lot, right? And she's kicking. I'm like, get out of here. Let me sleep, please. I just need it. So I am coming off a night with not a lot of sleep. I know that I can get to the office. I can pop my Magic Mind. I'll be like, okay, I'm good. Set it up, get going. My brain is alert. I'm able to focus. I know what I'm looking at. I've got my notes here. I'm focused on you, and it's been a real game changer for me. I've said it all year long. Like even when Magic Mind wasn't sponsoring the podcast, I was still picking up Magic Mind because I know how valuable it is. And we've got such a good opportunity right now for consumers, for people who are looking to up their game, to get out of the funk that they're in. magicmind.com/RCP20. It's going to give you 20% off, up to 48% off with the code RCP20 for that subscription, right? We were talking about it. I actually have a challenge for anybody who's watching this. You ready for this? I will give you 15 Magic Minds. I will give them to you. And I want someone to go and say, yeah, you know what? I'll do that. Someone who's watching this podcast says, yeah, I'm going to do it. I want you to, someone who's taking, who's doing one energy drink per day versus I want you to do no energy drinks per day and do one Magic Mind per day and tell me what is happening in your life. So if that's you, if you're the energy drink a day versus Magic Mind, I want you to reach out. I want to give this to you as my, here you go, because I believe in it so much. And then I want you to come back and say, hey, here's what happened. Here's the difference between the two. I'm telling you, it's different.
At these things, there are definitely sponsored events. There are definitely things that opportunities to hang out that come up sometimes late at night. And I brought bottles with me through the weekend. And I've done these conferences without them, and I've done it with them. And it was a much safer grind. I did high five the guy who took 2 Advil with his Red Bull in the morning. That was pretty funny. But I'm like, have I got a deal for you? You should probably try something else, man.
That's what that discount code is for. Yeah, it's so much more. Like it's a smooth ride. It's not that bam, that crazy hit, right? It's definitely a different vibe, that mental performance shot, right? But it still also gives you that energy that you need. Anyways, big fan. Check it out. Magicmind.com/RCP20. Get you 20% off your one-time purchase and up to 48% off for your subscriptions with the code RCP20. So don't wait, get into it. We're coming into the holiday season. You can keep sharp, finish the year strong so you can start the year strong. Whatever it is you're doing, if you're a creator, if you're in the business world, whatever it is, Magic Mind is a game changer. It has been a game changer for me. You got young kids, you don't sleep at night. Boom, here's your solution. You're drinking too many energy drinks, you're feeling shaky, you're feeling like grindy, gritty because of all those energy drinks. Stop it. You know, coffee, great. Take it with your coffee. Shot real quick. Tastes nice. Full of a whole bunch of stuff that I don't know because I'm not a scientist, but I just know that it works. So hit them up, magicmind.com/RCP20, and you can get everything in that link below. So shifting gears back to talking about agency, this exciting topic that really excites me. I don't know if it excites you. Maybe it does. Maybe it doesn't. You know, I guess if you're watching this far, it probably does excite you a little bit. If you are watching this far, feel free to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, share this with someone who you think might like this kind of information. Of course, if you hit that subscribe button, it really helps us out overall. The more people who subscribe, the better off we do, yada, yada, yada. It takes time to do this. Kyle and I are taking time out of our day to give this up great information to you. So hit it up. So we want to talk about the difference between designated rep and brokerage representation. So going back before Tressa, you were always represented by a brokerage. So if you were hiring a real estate agent, you weren't just hiring the agent, you were hiring that brokerage, and you were hiring every single agent at that brokerage. Now, when Tressa came up, they said, hey, look, you can choose to be represented by the brokerage, or you can choose to be represented by the agent at the brokerage. Sorry, you can't choose. The brokerage has to choose how they want to represent their consumers. Do they want to represent their consumers as an entire brokerage, so everyone works there, owes fiduciary responsibilities to these people, or just the designated agent owes these fiduciary responsibilities to the consumer? So think about us, for example. We've got 400 agents just in Ottawa alone. We've got 2,000 agents across Ontario. Let's say, Kyle, you're my client, you want to go and buy a house, and we go and we look at that house. It's in Orleans, for example, where you live, and it's being sold by another RE/MAX Hallmark agent. In the old style, you would be in multiple representation, where the brokerage represents both clients. The brokerage is being serviced by the other agent as well as me.
Right.
Now you're in multiple representation. There's limitations to what I can do for you when we're in multiple representation. I can't tell you what you should pay for the house. I can't tell you what you like, you know, the other agent can't tell the seller what they should accept for the house. Well, you know what happened? We still did, right? I would still tell you what you should pay for the house, even though we weren't supposed to. So what we chose, because our brokerage is so big, because we do most of the business in the city, if you look at the overall total number of transactions that happen in the city, our brokerage is the number one brokerage. So we're going to be tripping over each other on a regular basis. So we decided to do what's called designated agency, which is what most people thought they were getting in the first place, right? You hire the agent, and the agent has the fiduciary obligations to you. Other people in the brokerage can still provide a service to you. So for example, if you hire someone to sell your house and they're from RE/MAX Hallmark, I can go and do an open house at that listing, but I don't owe the fiduciary obligation to the seller. I don't owe the fiduciary obligation to anybody.
Oh, that's how that works. And I'm not putting it on for the podcast. I really never understood how that,
Yeah.
like, I with the real estate office I sit in has people, and they're just like, yeah, who needs an open house this weekend? Who's looking for an open house this weekend?
Yeah.
So that's okay. All right.
So
Okay.
every in the brokerage can provide services to the consumer, but the
Yes.
person who owes fiduciary responsibility, who has a fiduciary responsibility to that consumer, is the designated representative. Unless you have brokerage representation. And then with brokerage representation, everybody in the brokerage who might or might not have ever met that seller client owes the same level of fiduciary responsibility to that consumer, to that seller client. It's stupid. It's archaic. It doesn't make any sense. So I'll call a spade a spade. Even though that's how it was set up, nobody was doing it like that. You hire me to be your agent and we're going to go and look at a house for sale and it's listed by another Remax Hallmark agent. I'm still telling you everything that I can about it. I don't know those people. I don't know the sellers. I have nothing that I owe to them. You're my guy, right?
Putting it that way, it definitely makes more sense to run it that way, because you're right. That's what I would have expected.
Right.
That's what I would have expected.
It's how we were operating. So they made the rules to flex. They changed the rules to make it how we were actually operating, because nobody was doing it the right way before. Technically,
Yeah.
as a consumer, would be like, no, I don't want that. I want you to be the person who's giving me this information. Right? Get as much dirt as you can and share it with me. We just talked about that in the first half, right? Now I can't get any dirt. I can't tell you anything about it. If I find out that the seller is getting divorced and you want to buy the house, I can't tell you that because I still owe responsibility to the seller, because the old style said that he's my client too.
Wow. I never thought of it that way. It's like, yeah. Yeah. That probably makes the rule changes, just that last minute and a half, make the rule changes make a lot more sense. Like, this is not the first time we've talked about this. So but that last minute and a half, literally, I'm like, oh, click, okay, interesting. So it's not really, then it doesn't seem to be as big of a deal. I mean, you guys just rewrote the rules to do what you were doing anyway, and what you probably should have been doing anyway.
Right. And so that's why I say, like, we get stuck in, like, this is what I said at the beginning, right? We all get stuck in the minutia of like, oh, well, this is so important. It's blah, blah, blah. No, I mean, when you explain it this way, yeah, man, it makes a lot of sense. And then here's the other crazy thing. The consumer also has the right to choose to be self-represented, as in no agent helping them. No agent writing an offer for them, no agent telling them what they should or shouldn't do, no agent giving them advice, legally not allowed to give advice. And I mean, we're talking about, divorce, not divorce. We're talking about average sale price. What's this actually house worth? All that sort of stuff. Now you're saying, as a consumer, no, I'm good. I'll take care of this myself. You can do that. It is the silliest thing that you can do. Why would you not? This is what I said. Why would you not hire someone to work for you? Someone who knows what they're doing, first of all, but hire someone to work for you. Try and do it on your own. Like, you won't save any money, which is the main reason that people think, oh, well, I'll just do it on my own. I'll save that money. You won't, right? You want to buy a house and you think you're going to save some of the commission. The commission is an agreement between the seller and the listing agent. It has nothing to do with what the buyer thinks, right? A lot of buyers are like, oh, well, I'm gonna do this on my own. I'll reach out to the listing agent and they'll give me a discount. They'll give me a deal on it. No, they won't. They might give you a deal. Hey, we'll take $1,000 or $2,000 off the price. But if you had hired your own agent, it doesn't cost you anything because the seller agent is probably agreeing to cooperate with the buyer agent. And B, if that agent that you're hiring doesn't have enough reasonable care and skill to help you save more than what you would be able to get off the price because of the relationship that they have with the other agent, because of their ability to negotiate, because of X, Y, and Z, then you've hired the wrong agent.
Right? Yeah. Yeah. I would never do it. Never. I tried once and I'm like, nope. I had to call my agent buddy too many times. I'm like, okay, well, now I just feel like an ass. So I'll just hire you to do this.
That's the thing. It's like, you know what? I sold a house in a different province and I knew I'm not doing this by myself. Could I do it by myself? Sure. But I don't have what I was lacking was the knowledge of how it works. We sold our house in Quebec. The knowledge of how it works in Quebec. Much as I knew how it works here, it's a different beast out there. The rules are different, the laws are different, everything's different. I wouldn't even sell a house in Toronto, and it's the same province. I don't know the players. I don't know the conversations. I haven't spent 12 years building relationships with the other agents in the city. You speak with any agent in the city, you say, oh, I'm talking with Sean Tassay. People are going to know, most people, maybe not all of them, but the vast majority of people who are conducting a strong amount of business are going to know, oh yeah, that guy, he's not a jerk, right? Knows what he's doing, has a thing. And that goes a long way when you're representing a client, right? Hey, here's our deal. Here's our offer. Is your client pre-approved? Yeah, we're pre-approved. Are we going to be able to actually close the deal? Yes, we will, right? And that all benefits our clients. So yeah, man, don't self-represent, because a lot of sellers will just say, no, why would I work with a self-represented party? There's no one, keeping tabs on them. No, thanks. So there's really no point to do it. Hire an agent who will give you fiduciary responsibilities. That is my hot take about agency. And if you need to hire an agent like that, you can book a Calendly appointment with I below.
Smooth. That was smooth. Slide it in there. It's good.
That's it. Anything else to wrap it up for you on your end?
Not really. The closest thing we have in our industry to that is like, we have a clause in a lot of our disclosures that's like, hey, we're acting on behalf of you and the lender. So it's our job to be honest on both sides, right? Like, we need to present the lender's going to charge you this. They're going to charge you this. This is your penalties. This is what happens if you break it. That's what their costs are. Just like we're telling the lender, dude works here, makes this kind of money. Here's all the paperwork that says they do, right? And because we're the intermediary, we're acting on behalf of both. Same as the lawyers, right? Like, I've told clients, I'm like, and I'm not trying to put anybody in trouble. It's just do that. Like, they have to tell the lender what you're telling them. Yeah. So if you go in there saying, I'm buying this as a personal residence, but don't worry, lawyer, I'll rent it to you next week. Right? You're like, they have to tell them that, because it's a different deal now. Right. So like, we have those responsibilities. So it's one of these things I find interesting. No, I don't. It's just, we've created industries out of having to regulate being a good person because someone's a dick. Someone was a dick, and now we have industries built around just regulation. I'm like, this is it annoys the hell out of me.
Legal system and society is built on that, right? Because some guys like, I'm gonna.
There you go. There you go.
Anyways, that's content for an entirely other podcast. As always, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, share this with someone who you think might like this conversation. Hopefully it was valuable to you. If you did find it valuable, please do the above. You can also click the link below. Check out magicmind.com/RCP20 for 48% off your first subscription, or 20% off a one-time order. And I'm serious, if you are watching this and you are interested in Magic Mind, hit me up. I will give you free 15, and if you to try against your 1-a-day energy drink, you have got to go 15 days without your energy drink and instead sub in Magic Mind, and then report back to me. Tell me what it is, and we'll do a sort of breakdown about that. I think that'll be a lot of fun. And you can also book an appointment with Kyle or I in the Calendly links. And if you're watching on YouTube, thank you for your eyes. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, thank you for your ears. And until next time, keep it real.
Collective.